Morning class. This audio is going to be in the form of an introduction to Arma's novel, The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. What really strikes me quite hard is this blunt contrast between, the word beautiful in the title and the dominant metaphor in the novel. Arma's novel, which is smell, filth, and decay. So in this novel, the protagonist, who happens to be without a name, and that's quite significant, it carries in it a strong symbolical function, which is a man without a name. So the protagonist here is overwhelmed by the omnipresence of filth, rottenness, insults, swear words, and curses. So it is a novel which actually depicts the life, I would say the daily life, of a simple man who works as a railroad clerk, but that's in Ghana after independence. And this man is caught between two fires. This man is torn between his family and his society. So he witnesses and goes through the decay and the filth of his society, symbolized by corruption. So, and this man, he doesn't want to play the game, so he refuses to take bribes. And as a result of that, his wife has no respect for him. And his wife, Oyo, for those who have already read the novel, is ready to give in, regardless of what the outcome may be. So this man is berated by his own family. Why? Because he failed to provide for them and bring in the money to buy what is referred to as European gleam. So how can he live without making compromises in a society where material comfort is synonymous of wealth and power? Now, Teacher, who is another protagonist in Arma's novel, who is the man's friend, so he decides to stay away. He recoiled from his own society because, as I said earlier on, he refused to take part in the game. So, unlike the man and the teacher, there are other characters, like Kumsen, as we said, his wife, who typifies corruption, rottenness, and the gleam in life. So this gleam, if you want, it represents the luxuries of life. And it shows no heed to moral or to morality. So they are contented with the comfort achieved by or at the expense of other people's hardship, which means they live on others' calamities. So throughout The Beautiful Ones, meaning the beautiful ones are not born yet, So Arma reveals this corruption, or the corruption of the Ghanaian society, and the failure of the economic and social political policy of Nkrumah's regime. And but how? He used filth to present this stinking environment of the protagonists. So this everlasting filth metaphorically shows the decadence of the system, and literally the reality of a dirty landscape in Takoradi, or Accra if you want, which is the setting in the novel. So excremental language, dirty, is used to depict the corrupt society, as well as the filthy environment in which the characters find themselves. For example, to illustrate this idea of filth, we see the man, the main protagonist, of course, sleeping on an old bus on his way to work, and he happened to dirty the seat with his spittle, and has to clean it, but he doesn't have a handkerchief. So, and I'm quoting from the novel, and he leaned against the back leather and, moving his trunk sideways a few times, wiped the moisture off. So as a consequence, the conductor insulted him and started shouting, "Get out! Were you waiting to shit in the bus?" So if you follow the track of the man from the bus stop to his office, you would see the filth that litters the street, despite the waste receptacles. Now, there are receptacles there, but they're not used, or maybe they're overused. So these receptacles are are set up to keep the country clean, because the dirt was undesirable and must be eliminated. So that was, if you want, the slogan behind the system's awareness action in the form of an advertising. So this campaign, or if you want, this awareness campaign, was presided over by a Presbyterian priest. So the aim of this campaign was to rid the town of its filth. So it has brought hope at first, but this hope was shattered in the end. So the failure to implement this anti-litter, if you want, campaign, not only exposes the ineptitude of the governing class to manage the matters of the public, but also the rootedness and how deep corruption is embedded, as well as decay. So Armas keeps using the image of the constant overflowing state of receptacle of waste, and the omnipresence of filth and garbage on the streets, to lay bare and to actually attack the corrupt system. And for those looking for an example, I refer you to the description of the man's office, and especially the banister, which is extremely repelling. So in this description of the man's office, Armour uses grotesque bodily imagery. Why? To allow the reader to picture the society the decayed banister typifies. And the banister or the society is also compared to a very long piece of diseased skin. See, really very grotesque, repelling. So apart from the natural rot and decay of the banister, it is man's activity that hastens its putrefaction. So the rottenness of the banister is the image of the inevitable, the inexorable moral degeneration of society, against which nothing can be done because the wood would always win. And here, of course, ironically speaking, corruption turns out to be a means of existence and a value and ethic that everyone must embrace if you really want to carve for yourself a place in society. So the filth on the streets epitomizes the failure of development and the everlasting presence of corruption, because the money allocated to clean the city is misused. Right. When reading a novel, one might find himself or herself wondering why Armour takes such great care to depict in detail. It's a very microscopic, minute description of the man's home, bathroom, and that's on the copy I have on pages 101 and 102. And the man's office latrine on pages 105 and 106. Where the man's nostrils, assailed by something he is carrying with himself, the smell of the latrine, and where the marks of old smears are still visible on the walls. Also, the walls are covered with obscene drawings and writings. So this, or through the portrayal of these daily routines of the man, presents, so through these portrayals, Armour presents every facet of Ghanaian society, which is covered in filth, and even the air is polluted with particles suspended in it. So if you contemplate the man's journey from his office to his house, or to his house, so the man offers shots, pictures of repellent reality of the malaise in his society. So he, meaning the author, draws the reader's attention to the miserable conditions in which the Ghanaian society goes through. So if we go to Kumsin, which is Arma's hero, the Gleam, is the epitome of corrupt leadership. So, in fact, Kumsin used to live in an insolent luxury at the expense of the others, as I said earlier on, living on others' calamities, as he was a minister. So after the military coup, which overthrows his party, so he is afraid of being killed and seeks refuge in a man's room. So the stench that comes out of his body, especially his mouth, due to his decay, and it is unbearable to the man. So Kumsin's decay and rottenness reflects his moral corruption. And even Oyo, who always admires Kumsin's success, whispers in her husband's ear how he smells. So the reversal of the situation anticipates or foreshadows the inexorable downfall of the minister and the end of his malpractices. So when he heard that the military men were searching for him, he had no other choice than to escape through the shithole. It is worth mentioning that Kumsin had refused to go to his latrine to relieve himself when he paid a visit to the man because of the smell. But now that he is running away to save his life, he goes through the shithole head first. It's very ironical. Irony, a good example of irony situation. So, and the importance of this shows through how, or how much, or how many details did the author attach to this, the description of this situation, where the man tried to escape through the latrine. So the whole thing is described in very minute manner. So references to words like lavatories, latrines, shit. So that happens very frequently in the beautiful ones. And they are here to reinforce really the prevalence of the olfactory sense in a novel. So Kumsin's smell and his decay, which obliged the man to hold his breath, and Kumsin's struggle to flee through the shithole, epitomize his fall from grace. So the recurrence of images related to filth, dirt, vomit, enable the author to develop, the theme of corruption and squalor, dirt, filth, and also shows the author's revulsion of these very suffocating conditions in post-independence Africa. So these images also indicate the author's readiness to protest and call for a remedy of the situation through the crucible of social criticism, So I would finally describe the Arma's approach by referring to the concept of brutal realism. So Arma would force his readers to look at things right in the eye, regardless of how repelling these images are. Okay, so this is just a general introduction to the novel. So I strongly advise you to go through the novel as soon as possible, and then more audios will follow. Good day.